What if I told you that we've got a guest on the show who is the CEO of a charity and has made a massive impact in the sports space with this charity, which we'll learn about all today. But he's also a podcast host who has already interviewed over 120 athletes and learned many, many things during his experience. And he's only 17 years old. That's what we've got today as we interview Jamie McCreedy, who's over across the pond near London, and he's going to be chatting with us about all of this today. An awesome interview, great energy this guy has. You guys are going to really, really enjoy this one, and he's going to share with you. It's a great interview for anybody who is aspiring to do big things because he's been able to accomplish a lot of these things by the time he's 17, and he just keeps going and keeps going, keeps learning and keeps growing. And some of the messages he shares will be phenomenal for parents, but especially younger athletes as well. Just anybody who's got aspirations to do big things in their life. So check this episode out. Now, I want to shout out our sponsor of today's podcast, which is Aesthreadics weightlifting belts. And I would highly encourage all of you guys to go to aesthreadics.com and check out their weightlifting belts. They've got knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, wrist wraps, lifting straps, and weightlifting belts. And you can customize your weightlifting belt for your brand, your name, your image, your likeness, or your school. So if you're a school that's listening to this and you want to outfit your gym with all of these belts, check it out. Aesthreadics weightlifting belts are incredible. So aesthreadics.com. I'll put the link here in the description so that you guys can go straight there. Appreciate you guys. This is the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. My name is Shane Larson, host of the show, 9 years running into the show. 2017, we got this thing started, and, you know, it's been really cool just reflecting on this over the last couple of months, really, once we hit our 9-year mark, just how many countries have listened to the show. We've had this downloaded in 183 countries in all 50 states. Now, we're still trying to build this out on the YouTube platform. I only got close to 900 subscribers at the time of this recording, so I need to build that. I need that video following to follow the audio following. So if you guys are listening to this or whatever, just hit that subscribe button over on YouTube. Consider checking it out over there and following the show over there so you can actually watch the podcast rather than just listening to it. It's always kind of a cool little flip to it. So if you guys could help me out over there and help me build out my YouTube following, that would be great. I want to shout out today's sponsor, which is Aesthreadics weightlifting belts. You guys, these weightlifting belts are incredible. They're customizable. I've been using mine. I've got a Gametime Guru one. If you guys follow me on my social media pages, you'll see the weightlifting belt that I have. It's all customized to me. So if you're into sports, if you have a program, a club, if you're a football team, basketball team, you need some strength and conditioning, whatever, these are awesome customizable weightlifting belts that you can outfit your entire gym with. So make sure to check out aesthreadics.com. I'll put the link down here. I do not get a commission for that. I'm just letting you guys know because I freaking love them and they're sponsoring the podcast. So really grateful for their support for me. And I want you guys to check it out as well. So again, joining us on the podcast today, awesome opportunity to learn from a young individual who is making some big moves in the charity space, just as a CEO. So we're going to learn. You heard it in the description. We got a couple of things to discuss today. I mean, he's got his own show, charity work, and everything, and he's got the sports ties. His name's Jamie McCreedy, and Jamie's joining us. Jamie, where are you from, man?
Well, I'm just outside of London in a place called Hertfordshire, countryside.
All right. So you're on the other side of the globe. This is actually what's pretty cool about this. I'm in Idaho, which is on the western side of the United States. You're over there on the other side of the country, but we're able to not the other side of the country, other side of the globe, and we're able to chat, which is so cool. I love technology, but I wanted people to know as they heard your accent, they were going to be like, "Oh, okay, cool, sick." So, Jamie, let's kind of get into this a little bit. When you messaged with the introduction, you talked about being a Watford fan. Talk to us about that a little bit. Just kind of give us that disclaimer.
Well, that's the first ever introduction I've had as a Watford fan. But firstly, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. Smashing podcast, by the way. So my first stance into football actually was with Liverpool. My father supports Liverpool, and as the right thing to do, you often support the club that your parents support. So I did, and I still do, depending on who you speak to. But ever since then, it's been Watford, really. So I'm about an hour and a bit away from Watford, and it's the local team, as you can see right behind me and up there as well. I love Watford. I think it's great to go and support your local team. I think you have a better connection with them compared to then what you would if you support Manchester United or if you support Liverpool or if you support Manchester City. So it's also cheaper tickets. But don't tell anyone I said that. I support it for the love of the game. So I love Watford. Watford's a good club, although they're not doing as well as I would have hoped for in recent weeks. But yeah, I'm a Watford fan now.
I love it, man. That's super, super cool. Support the local teams, give them the support there. It's big time. How has football or soccer, how we call it over here, but how has football over there like impacted your life? What's the culture and the community like around the sport of football over there?
Well, it's absolutely massive. I think everyone that I meet is always the common thing to say, do you like football or soccer as you call it? And if they say no, you're more shocked. You're like, what? You don't support the lovely game? So obviously I do, and a lot of people do around me. And the culture here is just football. Everything is really brought together by the sport. And yes, you have other sports as well. But when in the summer times, for example, when cricket takes over, everyone's a bit of in a slumpy mood because everyone wants to play football. Everyone wants to watch football. So yeah, that's what I'd say. And the way that I sort of got into it was through match attack cards. I don't know if you have them in the States, but they're these like tradable cards, and they've got every player in the Premier League, or they did back then. And I'd often have the cards, and you trade them with your friends. In fact, I never traded them. I never ever traded them. Although I always say I had one of my close friends who is still my close mate, and he always wanted my 99 club David De Gea, which was like the top card at the time. But I never gave it to him. You can never give away your best card.
Dude, that's so funny. That's cool, dude. I love hearing these types of stories. So it's interesting. You mentioned like the downtime cricket starts and stuff. Dude, right now, I would say, so in the United States, American football ends around February when the Super Bowl, our big championship match happens. That ends. And then as soon as like March gets through and we finish college basketball and the NBA starts, like there's this like 3-month lull where it's just baseball, and baseball's great for a lot of people in the United States. But when we want that American football and basketball going on, there's that like 3 or 4 month window where it's like, oh my gosh, we just want to get back to that. But it's funny you mentioned so football over there, so soccer as we call it. I was one of those people that absolutely hated the sport of soccer growing up. I never enjoyed it. I had a lot of friends that played it, competed. I was a American football, a basketball, and a boxer. Those are my 3 sports. And I actually served a church mission for my church in Brazil for 2 years. And so during my time, Jamie, when I was in Brazil, I was 19 and I was there till I was 21. Dude, it was incredible. That was it was what you kind of explained, like just it's everything over there. That's kind of like what they do. I was watching little kids that are like 3-4 years old playing. They would roll up like grocery bags in the street, and they'd play. That was their soccer ball. They'd roll a ton of them up though, so it was kind of hard. And they play with that in the street. And it was kind of cool. You hear those stories like, oh, they'll make anything into a ball and play. But they were, and it was really cool to watch. And so I kind of, over those 2 years, I just grew a love for the sport. So I have a massive respect for it. I suck at it. I'm not good at it when I compete at it, but I do enjoy watching it now. I have a lot more respect for everything that entails. So it's kind of cool. I always just like to talk to people that are kind of in that culture as well, just kind of part of it. But another thing that caught my attention, I want to touch base on, Jamie, is you mentioned you're a podcast host. You've interviewed over 120 players and managers from all over the place. Like, so you too do a podcast and you have this opportunity to interview and stuff. So talk to us about the podcast a little bit, the media side of things, so I can get to know you as a podcaster.
Sure. So, by the way, I only started watching football when I was about 10. So I got into it pretty late as well. But yeah, so podcasting came about. It was through the radio at the start. So on a local radio station near me. And I think in the States, there's a lot more per square meter. Here, there's not so many local stations that I'm aware of in my local area. So I joined up with that. Originally, I was going to go on to another local station, but that never really happened. So I joined a place called Unite Radio. It wasn't in person. It was all online. And it was through my head teacher at the time, or principal. And he actually came into my college only a couple of weeks ago and did a podcast with us. It was like a way to thank him, if you like, to speak about his team. And I just praised him for obviously getting me into the place where I am now. So he was absolutely phenomenal. So in terms of me getting onto the podcast, I started off my show when I was about 14 years old. I had a snippet on my head teacher show doing like a bulletin, maybe about 5 or 6 minutes. And then 2 weeks in, he says it's a bit longer, but I'm very, very certain it's about 2 weeks. I sent him an email after I did my show, and I said, I've told all of my my followers on Instagram that it'll be the same time next week. And he used to have a 2-hour show, and I told it, and then he told me, he said, look, Jamie, sometimes you've got to rein the horses in a tiny bit. You're not quite there yet. But then from that, I sort of got my own show. I think the following week, to be fair, he probably had enough of me. So I had my own show speaking about football. But that was radio. That wasn't live. So essentially it was a podcast, is what you could call it. But I'd come home after playing football on a Sunday and I would look at my screen as I'm looking now and just read off articles or pieces. And I got absolutely bored of it. I was like, oh my goodness me. It's to sit here and talk football, yes, is wonderful. But to sit and talk about football with no one there is quite something. So, and as I've always said, if you want to record a 1 hour podcast, which is, or a radio show, off the back and you want it to be perfect, you're going to spend a bit longer than an hour doing it. So unlike this, where it's live and we can not really edit things out. So that's how it started for me. And that's how I got into podcasting. And then I started my Inside the Mind of podcast later down the line.
Man. So, dude, this is super cool. So, Jamie, when it's been 9 years since I started mine, and I was actually in college or university, however you call it. And I remember, dude, I started it the same way. I was like, I'm a sports fan. I was trying to go into sports journalism, and I was like, what do I need to do? And so I started recording. And the initial podcast that I started, it was this, but the format was not an interview based. It was literally like I was trying to do a recap of all the stuff that happened over the weekend. And I realized over time, like people, didn't want to hear me talking. They've got enough of those shows that are doing the exact same thing. They don't want to hear me just talk because everybody else is doing the same exact thing. And then it was almost by accident that I found it out. I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring on a guy 10 months into doing this. I'm going to ask him about his baseball career and just kind of talk to him about that. It might be a fun little twist. And that was the first time in my podcasting career where my downloads skyrocketed. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, people are listening to this. And I realized, oh, they want to hear other people's stories. So I had to shift and learn how to interview and do all that. But it's kind of funny. Like I you learn it as you go and figure out. And like you said, one thing I'll say to aspiring podcasters that might want to do this, I think podcasts are an amazing opportunity to connect and get your name out there and also just meet new people like I'm meeting you right now. But if you are trying to do a show, just like you said, man, if you're trying to do like an hour-long show, dude, it's going to take longer than an hour. You've got to put segments into it. You've got to edit it. You've got to chop it up with some music. You've got to have background and everything. Dude, and you're probably not making a dime off of it. You're not making any money off of it for a long time. Most of them don't even make a penny, depending on how long you're doing it for. So just know what you're getting into and make sure you have a plan going forward. So I think that's awesome. Great insight there. So are there any interviews? So again, it's called Inside the Mind of, correct? Inside the Mind of, what you said. If like in that experience, have you interviewed any athletes or anything that like sticks out to your mind? Like any surprises that you've had during your interview process?
Yeah. So going back to what you said, it's a very similar journey that maybe we all cross paths on. So it was the same thing. One day I reached out to, I got on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn was a great tool for me to get these guests on. And it was a football coach in Australia. He's now a goalkeeper coach. And then it built on to Jordan Gibbs, who means quite a lot to me because he's a football agent. And I've met him in person. We had him in to the studio a few times as well. So yeah, going back to that, it was a really, really interesting one. And through there, I've managed to build up a really good palette of people that I've interviewed. For example, David Hodgson, he won the Champions League with Liverpool. So the team that I support, or supposedly support. The following one that sticks out to me would be Kenny Hibbert, who's played for Wolves. One of Wolves' best players that has ever played for the club. I don't know if you can see behind me, actually. We've got, so these are another podcast that I do in London. So we've had,
let's pull that back.
Jack Baldwin there. Oh, there. And then above him is Mark Robinson, who was at Chelsea for some time and then took the Burton Albion job in League One. Above him is Robbie Simpson, who again played in all the divisions aside from the Premier League. And then above that is Adam Thompson, who again played for Northern Ireland, played for Barnet, played for Leyton Orient, played for some really good sides. And to the left is Demetrios Konstantopoulos, who is a Greek goalkeeper who got promoted from the Championship to the Premier League. So those are just some people that I've interviewed. But do you know what? You may even ask me who my favorite is, but I want to answer that question anyway. That I often now find, and I don't really know how this will come across, but I often find now that I love talking to people who are just starting off in their game. I love speaking to them about the drive and the passion that they have for the game. And this is obviously prior to a professional's perhaps future injuries or future downfall or spiral or negativity. But it's always great to hear people's stories from anywhere. But I always like the younger people who have a bit of life and a bit of energy inside of them that want to achieve big things.
Jamie, that is so cool, man. I'm actually like geeking out about this because I feel like I'm able to actually connect with somebody on this level because I've been asked the same thing. In 9 years, I've had some amazing opportunities to interview like big name athletes and former athletes and coaches. And that's all. I have enjoyed a lot of them, some of my dream interviews. But there's also been times where I've interviewed what we call high school athletes that are going into the college, university level. And people are like, who are your favorite interviews? I love the younger guys too, because they're in a different part of life. They're transitioning to the next level of sport. They haven't experienced it all yet, but here's what they're doing to prepare for it. And like, there's some cool things. There's some cool insights too from anybody from all walks of life. So it's just cool for me to hear you say something very, very similar. Stuff that, I just think it's awesome. That's so cool, dude. So moving forward with your podcast and the media journey, like what's your plan with Inside the Mind of? Are you going to continue on? Like, are there any goals with that moving forward?
So I was brought up in a family, still am with a family, 2 sisters. I'm a triplet, and my younger sister, we're all the same age, but my sister, who's a couple minutes younger than me, we ended up playing football together. Never in the same. Oh no, we did play in the same team actually. It was in primary school. We were probably about 10 or 11 years old. We played in the same team, and it was a really good experience. And I suppose from there, I've often missed dinner times. We always have dinner as a family, which is a great way to connect. But I often miss that to do the podcast. So Inside the Mind of, again, is a really good way to connect with people around the globe. And I've got a map just up there of every time I interview someone, I have to scratch off where they're from if it's a new country. So my plan with Inside the Mind of is to continue it. Again, I've never really made any money off it. Actually, I've made a tiny bit of money, but nothing compared to most. But for me, it's been a great experience to speak to people and to build off of that. And I feel as if, to be fair, I never really miss a show every Saturday. However, there's towards the last 2 years towards Christmas time, I've taken a bit of time off because it can get quite overwhelming. And then I sort of feel in a bit of a slumpy situation. I'm like, if only I carried on for the last 5, 6, 7 weeks. Who knows who I could have spoken to? Who could I have had on the podcast that now, unfortunately, maybe the chance has slipped to have on. So that for me is really important. I really want to continue it. I wouldn't be here talking to you or talking to people I've spoken to in the past had it not been for the drive to continue it happening. And it's also allowed me to get some of these people into college. All these people on the wall, apart from the one in the frame, they've all come into the college. They've all come into the studio and we've spoken to them in person. So that would have never happened. So my aim is to continue Inside the Mind of, whether I get an apprenticeship. I'm not going to university, but if I get an apprenticeship or stay at college, we'll continue the podcast for as long as it will happen.
That's so awesome, man. I can just relate on a lot of those factors, and I just think it's awesome that you're putting the time and the work in. Jamie, when I talk to people who start podcasts, I've had so many people reach out to me in the last 9 years. Hey, Shane, I need some advice on this, and I'll give them all the advice they want for free. I'm not even going to charge them for it. I'm like, here's what, but you've got to be consistent, and it is a grind. A lot of people they're like, oh man, I got to do it again. I'm not making any money off of it, so is it? But there are so many things that you can learn from it, the connections you've made, like you just said, all these opportunities that have come about that probably wouldn't have had you not done it. All the things. I say the same thing. And so here's just to kind of give you some insight. Maybe it's just an idea for the future, but for me, it's taken 9 years, but literally I'm in the process as of like right now, hopefully by the end of March, I'm making a children's book series based on the interviews that I've had over the last 9 years. I'm taking some of the stories and I'm trying to take that to the kids. So we're writing our first children's book series based on some of the interviews I've had, making the story kind of unique. And I'm going to try to make that into we call it Little Gurus. And that's what we're making. And so we're going to make the little children's book series. And then obviously we have a merchandise line. I sell shirts and stuff too, but just even like finding unique ways. Maybe you have some of those same stories. You've interviewed a lot of people. I wonder if there's a way you can extract some of that information and kind of form it in a way that can even reach more people. It's kind of a fun little twist to the podcast world. So kind of cool, man. I love it. So Jamie is moving forward into the interview. This is another big thing, obviously a huge thing. Because when you introduced yourself in the email, you had introduced yourself as the charity CEO, right? And you have a charity and you're supporting children in Kenya. So we need to talk about this in detail, because I think that's super, super cool. So let's just dive into it. Talk about the charity, how you got it started, and let's kind of go from there.
Can I just quickly go back to what you're saying, if you wouldn't mind, about the book? So this is a really good thing. So please, when it's out, send me a link. I'll buy one without a doubt. And actually, I was going to do literally a very similar thing. There's a goalkeeper coach who is called Saladin Mustafi, and he doesn't know about this, but I wanted to base a book off of someone like him who came through what he came through. So a kid growing up in Eastern Europe and having to battle through academies. And I actually got writing the book. It would have been about this time last year. And to be honest, Shane, I just sort of, when you don't do something and you sort of lose it, I lost it. And you know what? I might have to continue it because you've got Amazon these days, and you can make a book through Amazon for free. And my word, I mean, it seems to me that we've got a very similar path. But the book world is really interesting. I don't know about the copywriting things, and I had to actually think to myself, am I allowed to use Watford, for example, or do I have to make up a fake team name and all that sort of thing? But who knows? Yeah, I'm very keen to perhaps do what you're doing and take some advice off of that. So in terms of the charity, I got started with a charity at about 14, 15 years old, and I was contacted by a man called Gabriel in Kenya, and he just explained to me about what he was doing in Kenya and not really asking for any help, as far as I'm aware. It was a very long message, but as you do, you read these things. So I read the email, the LinkedIn message, and I was like, okay, but I want to help you. And I said this the other day to a group of mates. I said, I actually didn't know what I was signing myself up to. In all fairness, I was 15, and someone said to me the other day, "Do you get underestimated?" And I always said the answer was no, but in this sense, yes. So what happened was, I said to Gabrielle, I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can. And there's a football game called Football Manager, and they did this thing, or you can relate it to this. You know, when football clubs or soccer teams or whatever, they say we have a big game at this time, and they have a world map, and they go, in Doha we're playing at 6, and in America we're playing at 2 a.m., whatever it might be. I thought maybe I could just do that. Maybe I could have a world map, and I could just pinpoint teams that I'm trying to help and just share on social media. It wouldn't have been a lot of help, but that's the best that I thought I could do. I have absolutely no idea how I managed to get boots donated to me and money donated to me. But I went to my school at the time, and I said that there's a team in Kenya. They really want help. And we have these things here. And I don't know, I think in America, do you have school uniform in America?
Yeah, are you talking about for the sports teams or for the actual schools themselves?
For schools themselves.
Yeah, the private schools. Yeah, if you go to a private school, which isn't a public school, that they do have uniforms that they'll wear. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in England, for the most part, most schools wear school uniform. And there's been a lot of things about how expensive they are, and maybe you should wear your own clothes. But there's, I think, every single school in the country a few times a year will do a non-school uniform, so you can wear your own clothes for the day, and you pay £1 or £2 or some amount of money. And I said it was actually the same head teacher at the time who got me on the radio, but I had to be referred to the deputy. And I said to him, I was like, "Is there any way that you could help?" And he said to me, "Because you're not a charity, we can't really do money." Now, I completely understand that, and I could completely. But my number one thing is you need to know when you donate something to a cause where that money's going. Mm-hmm. Now, we can see with UNICEF, we can see with we can see with most charities that a lot of the money that you put towards isn't going towards the cause that you think, or if it is, I want to go and meet these children. I want to know more about who I'm helping, right? Yeah. So I was a bit disheartened at the fact that my own school wouldn't help me, and I actually asked 3 times. I kept asking. And nothing really got back to me. But the last time I asked, I said, "This is the last time I'm going to ask. Is there anything that you can do?" And they arranged a date maybe about 3 or 4 weeks into the future and said everyone can bring in boots or shorts or tops or shin pads, just random football items to bring in to ship off. And the reason how we could send things off was because of a GoFundMe. Literally for the last few years, all the money raised has been the exact amount, or literally the exact amount that we need, minus a couple of pounds maybe, and you've got to top it up yourself. So that was what happened in year 1. Year 2 was, in that year we sent 55 pairs of boots. Wow. And we sent over hundreds of shorts and tops and socks to a team in Kenya who's got over 120 boys and girls at that time of all ages. The second year, which was last year, I just thought it sort of comes about and you're like, all right, I'll do it again. And I was at college this time, where I am now, still now. And it was the same thing. I asked for a non-school uniform day. They said yes, surprisingly. I was like, wow, this is easier than I thought for some places. And we did something called the Kenya Cup, and I've got the trophy right there. I couldn't believe it. We organised a tournament for the whole school to play in. It was a 5 or 6-a-side tournament inside in a sports hall, and I won the tournament. I mean, people would say it's rigged or it's corrupt or whatever, but no, we did win it fair and square. And it was really good fun. It was a great way to get people active. I'm a big believer in, I'm sure you are. I mean, look at all the medals behind you, that people have got to go out there and play some sport. You can't be on the sofa eating crisps or chips, as you call it in America, and being a slob. So yeah, that was the Kenya Cup, and we raised a really good amount for them. all the money goes towards the shipment fees. I mean, there's not really too much spare money to go anywhere. There's no spare money at all. We got that time I worked with charity. So I worked with 3 different charities: Kit Aid, Kits for Causes, and Charity Boots. And obviously, Charity Boots gave us loads of boots. We ended up sending over 115 pairs, partly because of them and also partly because of donations. The kit we sent over about 400 tops, and then matched that with the shorts and socks. And then again, we sent over some balls this time as well. I didn't actually mention that. We sent over a few balls the year before, but last year we had some spare money. And we donated, we got the boots and gave them to Kenya. I think there was about 12 balls, which for them is great because they only have a few balls for that 120 children. So it was like a God-sent gift. So yeah, we sent that in that year. That was last year. And then I was contacted by Carla in America. And she said to me on LinkedIn, she said, "Thank you very much for the work you're doing in Kenya. I'm a big admirer of it. Gabriel, the man from Kenya, has been speaking highly of you." And I was like, this is a bit weird. Like, I never thought anyone else was helping the people in Kenya, let alone Americans, let alone people that are like across the pond. And so recently we've been establishing a charity, and we've actually got the Kenya Cup for the 2nd year coming next week. And I really hope I win it. Look, if I don't win it, I'll be a bit disheartened. But I've just come back from a foot injury, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to play. But this year we're hopefully going to raise a similar amount to last year. There's optimism about that. And I've been working with Donna, I've been working with Tim and Carla. These are 3 people from America. Tim and Donna are in Texas, and Carla is LA area. And it's been absolutely brilliant to work with them. And we're in the middle of setting up a charity, which will be obviously based in America. And yeah, it's been great. It's been really good fun. And we're not going to be helping Kenya this year or for the next few months or years. We're going to be looking at other courses, perhaps closer to home, because I often think that, yes, there's kids in Kenya, but yes, there's kids in all parts of the world that need help. But there's also a kid outside of your door and down the street that needs your help as well. So we can help children from the local area and really expand that onto the future. Then I think we can achieve some good things.
Man, absolutely, dude. That is so cool. I'm just like blown away at what you've been able to accomplish thus far. The whole Kenya Cup concept, that whole idea is just so cool to me. Then you're connecting with people over here in the United States for another thing. So Jamie, for you, running this stuff, I guess, it's really cool how it's all kind of transpired and how things are actually working, but what's a day look like for you? Like when you're trying to run this type of thing, is it pretty overwhelming? What's one of the biggest things you've learned, running these charities?
So I've got a mentor who's English, but he's out in San Diego. And he always tells me, don't burn yourself out or don't light the candle at both ends of the stick. And I honestly can't listen to it. And it's not due to ignorance. It's not due to an ego. I can't sit down on the bed or sit down on a sofa and switch off. If someone messages me, I'm usually on that. Sometimes it builds up. So there's a few messages I need to get back to. And, it takes a few days for me to respond because I'm so overwhelmed by everything. If you were to tell me, Shane, Jamie, could you do this? I'm on it. And that's now my first priority. I want to help people as best I can. I don't maybe prioritize chilling or just being a bit of a slob sometimes and watching football and eating some chips. But, it is what it is. And maybe I'll turn myself into an early grave. Who knows? But hopefully not. But yeah, no, it's been great. So my day to day, so we've just sent off the paperwork. So as a CEO, which is a bit of a cringy word to say, I'm not going to lie. It's good for the LinkedIn page to say CEO, but for me personally, it's a bit of a cringe. I just want to help people. So we've had internal discussions about where we want to help. And as I said, scholarships or helping people in the States or in England will be the priority. A few people really want to get involved, and which is absolutely perfect. We need people. We want to have people, not in just a financial sense, but in all sorts of senses. But for me, it is, we're having this conversation now and we're relating off a lot of things that we're telling each other. And it's great to know that there's people who I've helped in Kenya who can also relate to me helping Kenya, if that makes sense. So these Americans have been donating financially to their cause. And it's great to know that we've gone on that journey without really knowing each other. And now we know each other. So there was a man called Paul Taylor, and he helped the team in Kenya for years, and he bought them a pitch out there and he helped them financially. Unfortunately, Paul passed away a couple of months before I got involved with helping the team. And I think for the Americans, because they knew Paul, it's time to honor Paul's legacy, is what they really think. For me, it's about honoring Paul's legacy, but also creating your own legacy, because it's really important that you're not in it for yourself, but you also want to help other people. And that also comes with people praising you, which is obviously great. So back to your question, my day-to-day life is probably going to look a bit busier, and I'm hoping it's going to be a bit busier. And I want the inbox to be full, and I want people to be getting in contact and really help. The people in America are perfect. They're wonderful people. And I often say to myself, in a football sense, but also speaking about the charity, is there's people out there that will fit the role that you want. It's about finding them. It's about finding someone who can donate a couple of hours a week to help you with a course. It wouldn't even be that, to be fair. It'd be an hour a week max. But it's great to have the catch-ups. It's great to have the meetings and just talk to these people about helping other people. So currently, because we're not all together, it's a bit harder to say what my day-to-day is like because it's being taken up by podcasts or college. But I'm sure it's going to get busier. They're coming to the UK in September, so I'm sure that will gauge my interest, which it 100% will. And yeah, I'm hoping that the next step of this in the next few years would be to go out to these places and really visit the people that you're helping and see the lives that you're impacting as well.
That's so awesome, man. Real quick. So I mentioned you were younger. Mm-hmm. You mentioned you started your podcast at 14 or close like you said. Yeah. So tell everybody, how old are you right now, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm 17, 18 in June.
And you might have mentioned that in the thing, but I want to remind everybody, like, because I didn't actually say how old you were yet, because I wanted to just discuss is 17 and doing all of this. So I want to encourage those who listen. I know there are a lot of high school athletes who I coach basketball that have listened to this podcast. I know their parents are listening. That is so inspiring to me that you've been able to take the reins like at that age and just kind of do the thing, and you're doing something bigger than a lot of people have ever done. And the charity is all about helping people. And I think one of those things, that's something that the world needs a lot of. We need to be in the service of our other people. You know, like if you do service, you'll feel so much better. The world's a better place.
Yeah.
What advice, Jamie, at 17, what advice would you give to other young individuals who might have a big idea, but might think, well, I'm too young, no one's going to pay attention? You just mentioned, like, do you get overlooked? Do you do 17 and you've been able to do this and accomplish this? And I'm sure there's ups and downs and so forth, but what advice would you give to other people that have a big idea, but maybe some self-doubt because of their age?
Well, if I could base it off podcasting, those who think that you're too young to do anything or think negatively about who you are, don't even have them anywhere near you. It's the ones that want to help. It's the ones that will help you. And obviously, I'm so appreciative to be here today to explain my journey and my story. So actually, on the podcast that we have in college, it's separate to Inside the Mind Of. And we've got a young lad, actually, who's 14. And he is absolutely marvelous. This guy's unreal. You know, he's so willing to learn. He's already reaching out to guests. And, you know what I think? Because our college has never, without tooting your own horn here, but our college has never experienced a podcast like the one that we've got at college. And for us to then open our arms and say, yes, please come in, we want to help someone else, it gives us a great feeling. It gives us a great feeling that we can actually, again, physically see the change that we're making. But my advice is to never give up. I mean, I know it's a very normal one to say, but it's always also to believe in yourself. It's two very basic ones. But if you never, ever give up, then I think you've got a pretty good chance at doing whatever you think. And whether that's to be a president, whether that's to be a podcaster, whether that's to work in your local 9 to 5, if you have the desire to do that and you put your mind to it, anything is possible.
That's so freaking cool, man. I love it. So, Jamie, how do we, those who are listening to this right now, if we wanted to contribute to the charity in some form or fashion, even if we're not able to take part in the Kenya Cup or some of the other things, is there a way we can contribute? Do you guys have a donation link, a website, or anything of that nature?
Shane, you caught us on the off guard here. So we're actually announcing this in a few days and a few weeks' time. So by the time this podcast comes out, God hope it's out there. It will be on the Instagram, or it'll be on my personal Instagram as well. It's just my name. And yeah, if anyone wants to DM me, message me, the door is open. It's completely open. It's never closed. So please get in contact. And I'll never hammer for a donation ever. I never even ask for a donation. But if you want to financially support, you're more than welcome to offer that. And and the thing is, which is different, it's almost like running a political party here because you start from the bottom. So you've really got to prove yourself. When you spend money towards the charity that I'm CEO of, every single penny will firstly be accounted for. And the second thing is, you will know exactly where your money's going, which is a really positive way to support the cause because you can visually see where your money is going, which is a very important thing.
Oh, very important thing. Yeah. That's a big, I mean, people get apprehensive about, charities, donations just because of that factor. But if you guys have the means to be able to track that. I think it helps people just a little bit more. I think
sure.
there's people that want, and one thing I want to make sure I didn't even touch base on this. You said something that I want to take note of. There are people out there that are the perfect fit for what you're trying to do. They'll help you in whatever you're trying to do. You just got to find them, right? And I think that's really cool. I just want to make sure we touch base on that. But there are also, like, just remember that for anybody listening to this, there are people out there that can fill the role for your job, or they can, like, the job that you're looking for. They're like, hey, I need help with this. You got to find it. Or there's people that will help you with your charity, or there's people that will be a guest on your podcast. There's people that are out there, but you've got to go out there and you got to find them. But there are people that want to help. And then the same thing goes for this. There are people that want to donate and help a good cause. There are so many people out there that are looking for that type of a situation. So I'm hopeful that somebody who comes across this podcast will be able to do that and be like, oh, this is awesome. I want to help Jamie's charity over here. So that's my goal. I know there's people out there that want to do that. So super cool. So Jamie, before we sign off, man, the last question I have for you is, what is the biggest life lesson that you've learned through, whether it's your podcast interviewing athletes or it's through your charity and running this whole thing as a CEO? What's the biggest life lesson you've learned thus far?
The biggest life lesson, is I really think it is never to give up. I ran to be the manager of a football club, and I did a social media campaign on it. And because I kept hammering at the fact that I wanted to be manager, I'd never become manager. But even if they thought I was being serious or not, they replied to me, a professional from a football club on the board who deals with hundreds of thousands of pounds of players and deals with so much finances, decided to get back to me at 15 years old. It tells you something. Never give up, always believe in yourself, and always try and open up to other people as well.
I freaking love it, dude. That's so awesome. I'm going to make sure we put the links here in the description for your Instagram, your social medias, and everything. And if there happens to be a link by the time this episode launches, hopefully we can have we'll put a link in there too. We'll update the description of the podcast as it goes. And Jamie McCreedy, guys, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join me on the podcast today, man. I really enjoyed it.
No, well, look, unbelievable podcast you've got going on. And I really, really appreciate you allowing me to speak to you. I really appreciate you allowing me to give me the platform, to give other people the platform as well. And it means a lot that you've allowed me to come on. I've not been underestimated by yourself. And I think that there's potential here. Who knows what could happen if I come to the States or if you're over in London. I think we can achieve some good things together.
Absolutely, bro. I'm all stoked. The honor's here. Like, I'm so grateful that you reached out and you were willing to come on. So thank you for giving me the time to be able to interview you, man. And hopefully we can continue to build that relationship moving forward. So truly do appreciate you, brother. And for all those who are listening, make sure you hit the subscribe button, whichever platform that you're listening on, because we'll be coming to you each week with another interview. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.